This is MeTV, your home for memorable entertainment television. MeTV.
Today on Toon In With Me, it's another edition of On This Day.
We're taking a look back at some of the greatest moments in history that happened on March 31st.
Plus, we have some great cartoons lined up with Daffy Duck, Pepe Le Pew, Betty Boop, and more.
What's up, Doc? Be very, very quiet. Beep, beep. Suffering succotash. It's Toon In With Me.
Good morning, Tuners of America. I'm Bill, your cartoon curator. Alongside me is Toony The Tuna, and this is On This Day, March 31st edition.
Let's jump right into our top stories of the day.
Kicking things off, a Fistorie Lanzas in Paris. On this day in 1889, the Eiffel Tower was completed. At 986 feet, it was the largest structure of its time.
Get an eye full of that power. What else you got?
Well, in 1909, construction started on another iconic structure. On this day, the building of the Titanic began. At peak construction, there were 14,000 men working on it, and it was built to be virtually unsinkable.
Emphasis on the virtually.
On this day in 1966, the USSR launched Luna 10. It became the first human-made object to orbit anything outside of the Earth when it entered the moon's orbit.
Yeah. The Russians may have orbited the moon, but Neil Armstrong landed on it.
So true, Toony, so true. Another big story on this day comes from 1918, when daylight saving time went into effect for the first time. This was following the European example in an attempt to waste fewer daylight hours sleeping and have more time outdoors.
I mean, why would anyone ever suggest less time for sleep?
And finally, March 31st has been deemed National Crayon Day. So happy National Crayon Day to all of those of you who celebrate.
Wow, truly heavy-hitting news there, Bill.
I think so too, Toony. Look at this. I wrote all of today's nostalgia in crayon.
Of course you did.
Tuners, our first cartoon was released on this day in 1956. It features Pepe Le Pew chasing after a love interest that he believes to be a female skunk. Here now is Heaven Sent. Tuners, we're back at the Toon In Nostalgia Desk.
Bill, all those top stories were about science things. Let's hit them with some pop culture.
I like the way you think, Toony. On this day in 1923, the first dance marathon was held in New York City. Dance instructor Alma Cummings set a record for dancing 27 hours in the Audubon Ballroom.
My fins hurt just thinking about that.
Another story from on this day, 20 years later in 1943, Oklahoma premiered on Broadway. The Rodgers and Hammerstein production debuted to rave reviews and went on to run for almost 5 years, setting a record for the time.
Wow, really? A play about the state did all that?
Oh, absolutely, Toony.
Wow. People will watch anything.
Finally, on this day in pop culture from 1995, singer Selena passed away at the tender age of 23. The tragedy felt across the nation.
We could never forget Selena. Bitty bitty bom bom.
And on that note, on to our next cartoon. In this short, Daffy loses one of his wife's eggs as he accidentally replaces it with the wrong one. Here is Quackadile Tears. Hi, Tuners. We're back breaking down some of the biggest events that happened on March 31st in history.
You know, I think it's about time we talk about things from the great world of television and film. Besides us, obviously.
Well, today was a big day for box office releases. In 1989, the cult classic Heathers, starring Winona Ryder, Shannon Doherty, and Christian Slater, came out.
Oh, yeah. The Westburg High's elite clique of popular girls all named Heather. Definitely a classic teen movie.
On this day in 1999, The Matrix and 10 Things I Hate About You premiered on the big screen.
10 Things I Hate About You? I think I could come up with a lot more, Bill. Try me.
Seriously, Toony?
What? No, Bill, I'm just kidding you, big goof. You know I love you.
Yeah, well, right now I'm not so sure, but moving on. In 2000, the comedy High Fidelity starring John Cusack also made its box office debut.
Oh, yeah, and don't forget John's big sis Joan, as well as Jack Black, Lisa Bonet, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Darlene from Roseanne. They all starred in that flick.
Yeah, indeed they did. Moving on to television news.
Whoa, wait, Bill. You forgot one of the best comedies of all time. Tommy Boy, starring none other than Chris Farley and David Spade. It came out on March 31st, 1995.
Toony, I think maybe your 10 Things I Hate About You comment must have just really gotten to me.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry, pal. I was just joshing, really. Hey, let's talk about TV.
Well, all right, if you say so. On this day in 1957, Rodgers and Hammerstein's first made-for-TV musical, Cinderella, was broadcast live on CBS.
Oh, yes. I just loved Brandy in that.
Oh, no, Toony, you're thinking of the 1997 version with Brandy and Whitney Houston. This version starred Julie Andrews and was viewed by a whopping 100 million Americans. That's more than half the population.
You know what? That's great and all, but I bet that Julie Andrews didn't sing Impossible like Brandy and Whitney.
In other TV news, on this day in 1997, the hit children's TV show Teletubbies premiered on BBC.
Wait, what? That was a children's television show? I thought that thing was a horror show because I still have nightmares about that crying baby son.
It is a little scary, Toony. Lastly, and probably the most notable television moment on this day back on March 31st of 1994, Madonna made headlines with the most censored episode of a talk show in history. She dropped 14 words that shall not be repeated here on The Late Show with David Letterman.
Wait, come on. What did she say?
Well, Toony, if I repeated it, we'd surely be canceled.
Oh, come on, Bill. Surely it can't be that bad. Just tell me.
Well, okay, so she said...
I'm not sure I'll ever recover from that.
Yeah, well, I told you, Toony. In the meantime, here's a cartoon about a nurse helping patients recover. In this short, Betty Boop runs a repair shop for sick and broken down cars. Released on this day in 1939, here now is So Does an Automobile. Welcome back to the Nostalgia Desk, tuners.
It's time for some music news, baby! I can just feel that this was a great day in music history.
And you would be correct, Toony. On March 31st of 1949, there was the birth of the 45 record. RCA Victor introduced the 7-inch record that plays at 45 RPM. The smaller design with the longer playing time took off and changed the jukebox game.
Yeah, well, I don't know, Bill. I think I'll take streaming any day over whatever a 45 is.
All right, Toony, fair enough. On this day in 1967, Jimi Hendrix set his guitar ablaze on stage during the first day of his tour at the Astoria in London. Hendrix tried to one-up The Who by setting his instrument on fire.
Well, who did it better? Am I right?
Moving on to releases on this day. In 1958, Chuck Berry released Johnny Be Good.
Wait. I thought that was Marty McFly.
No, Toony, that was just in a movie.
Oh, well, you know which band released an album on this day?
Well, yeah, of course I do. That's Led Zeppelin, who released their 7th studio album, Presence, on March 31st of 1976.
Yeah, sure. But I was referring to this day in 1992 when Def Leppard dropped Adrenalize.
Well, I should have guessed, Toony. We all know how much you love hair metal.
Pour some sugar on me, Bill.
Toony, Pour Some Sugar on Me was an earlier Def Leppard album.
No, Bill. I mean that literally. Pour some sugar on me. I'm hungry.
Oh, okay, Toony. I guess we could get to that in a minute. Another release on this day in 2001, Shaggy's single Angel, featuring Rayvon, hit the top of the Billboard charts.
You know, I much more identify with Shaggy's other hit, It Wasn't Me.
I'm sure that you do, Toony. Hey, tuners, don't go anywhere. We have more cartoons coming your way when we return, so stay with us.
Hey, folks, welcome back.
We're looking back at events that happened on this day.
Hey, how about we take a swing at some sports history?
Speaking of taking a swing, on this day in 1995, Major League Baseball players agreed to return to the field after an embroiled battle over salary caps.
Oh, wow. I guess those batters weren't swinging.
Oh, they sure weren't, Toony. They sure weren't. In all, the holdout lasted 232 days.
Yeesh. Can't everybody just get along?
In other sporting news on this day, 10 years earlier, on March 31st of 1985, the very first WrestleMania was broadcast. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T took on Rowdy Roddy Piper and Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff at Madison Square Garden.
Now we're talking, Bill. You know, Cyndi Lauper was there, and Andre the Giant, and Liberace was the celebrity timekeeper. Oh, and don't forget Jimmy Superfly Snuka and Cowboy Bob Orton were in the ring, too.
And for our last story in sports news, on March 31st of 1973, Muhammad Ali lost to Ken Norton in a major upset. Ali fought 11 rounds with a broken jaw, but Norton still won in a split decision victory.
Oh, yeah, well, Muhammad Ali was the special guest referee at WrestleMania 1, and Norton wasn't.
Wow, Toony, you really know a lot about WrestleMania.
Well, it's my love language, Bill. Hey, all this fighting talk makes me think that I need to freshen up my skills in the ring.
Toony, what are you doing?
I'm bobbing and weaving.
Well, while Toony does that, let's watch another cartoon. In this one, Egghead takes up boxing lessons and ends up in the ring facing off with a champion. Here is Count Me Out. Tuners, we're back at the Nostalgia Desk discussing events that happened on March 31st in history.
Hey, Bill, I know I gave you a hard time earlier.
Well, you give me a hard time every day, Toony.
That's true. But in honor of National Crayon Day, I gotten you this as a peace offering.
Oh, Toony, you shouldn't have. No, Toony, I really mean it. You shouldn't have.
Huh, what, you don't like it? Well, I got it drawn specially for you. You know, I think it really captures your essence.
Well, maybe we should take a look at some better artists in our last cartoon. In this one, Porky Pig tries to stop Daffy Duck from drawing mustaches on every upper lip in sight. Here is Daffy Doodles. I don't wear a tie. Thanks so much for joining us today, Tuners.
We hope that you enjoyed looking back on this day in history with us.
For now, it's bye-bye from Bill.
And thanks from the Nostalgia Desk.
So, Toony, I always forget whether March has 30 days in it or 31 days in it.
Yeah.
Right? It's confusing.
It is very confusing.
On the next Tune In With Me. Today, a day full of pranks. It's April Fool's.
Bill, are you trying to impersonate me?
This is MeTV, your home for memorable entertainment television.